So good morning, all of you. Uh, we have been discussing the algorithm analysis and design technique. So we have started with the basic introduction of the course, and at the end of the previous class, we have started with the discussion on asymptotic functions. Now, asymptotic functions are a means, or you can say a tool, which can be used to compare two algorithms, because as we have been discussing that algorithm is basically a specific way or a formal way to solve any problem statement. Now there can be multiple ways to do so. That means for any given algorithm you will have a multiple options to solve it. Now which option is should be preferred, which option or which algorithm is an optimal one, that is to be identified, and that can be identified using analysis of that algorithm. But algorithm, or it's not like comparing two values where you can simply say that a is greater than b. So what you need is a kind of a mechanism which will allow you to say that okay, this is the uh, time complexity of this algorithm x, and this is the time complexity of this algorithm y, and based on this x is greater than y, so we can say that algorithm with y time complexity is better than algorithm with x time complexity. So that can be done by using identifying the order of growth. That is what we have started with. So now let us try to discuss more on that. We know that any algorithm, when you start analyzing or when you start asymptotic analysis of that algorithm, the first thing or the first step which is required is to compute the step count. We know how to compute the step count. Then the outcome of that step count will be either a constant function like Tn is equal to k, or it will be a linear function like Tn is equal to an plus b, or it will be a quadratic functions. So like the one which has been displayed over here, an square plus bn plus c. It can be a cubic function, it can be any polynomial function. So that is the first thing which you will achieve when you compute the step count. Now again, by looking at this equation also, you cannot say that equation 1 is greater than the equation 2, because this is a variable. The n value is a variable. Again, you have some coefficient association. So there is a value of A, there is value of B, there is value of C. And that also impacts on the overall outcome of this equation. So that means the final or the total running time of that algorithm is too detailed. And as we know that asymptotic analysis is about simplifying the things and not about the accuracy of the things. So what we do is we try to skip those elements from this equation which are of less significance. So obviously when you uh, see this an square plus bn plus c, obviously you can say that this bn or c are the terms which are less significant compared to an square, because obviously you have higher degree of order for n. So let us just consider this. Let's say we have an insertion sort and merge sort. These are the two algorithms. Uh, the insertion sort algorithm, if you observe that the insertion sort, or if you compute the step count for insertion sort, you have to compute the step count for merge sort. Then again, if you try to compare that, we will come to this point later on. But when you try to compare that, you can't just simply compare it by just looking at that equation. So, what is the solution? Solution is to simplify the things, but how can you simplify it? That is where the asymptotic functions comes into the picture. So the problem is you are supposed to compare two functions at different values of n, because when your n is equal to, let's say, 5, then what is the outcome? When your n becomes, let's say, 100, then what is the value of that function or that equation? When your n becomes, let's say, 1 million, then what is the value? And at each stage of the value of n, that outcome may differ, and that is the challenge, because you can't just simply say that equation 1 is greater than equation 2, because it relies on so much of other things. So this is an example which I think you might get some idea about it. Let's say there is a value of n square. So one equation contains n square, and second equation contains n LGN. Now LGN means log n with base 2. So basically it's a log of n only, but the base value over here is 2, and shorthand for that is LG. So instead of log n to the base 2, you can write LG. So that is the shorthand. So the one component contains n square, and second component contains n LGN. Now let us say your value of n is 1. So n square is 1. Again, n log n to the base n, 1 into log 1 to the base 2. Obviously it is less than 1. So this will turns out to be that n log n component will be the less than the other one. But when your n becomes very large, then this becomes smaller and smaller. So the second component will be much more less than the first component. But again, the question remains the same: how do we compare them, basically? So the solution is to focus on the range of value of n, and you have to identify a point after which there are no dissimilarity in the outcome, or there are no variations in the outcome, but you have to identify that point. And after that point, that means after that value of n, your equation 1 is always going to be greater than equation 2. Now objective is to identify that point. So what is basically the definition of asymptotic function? It is a function that increases with the size of input in the limit as the size of input increases without bound. Okay, you may not find it easy to understand, but we will discuss an example and it will be more clear than what it is actually. There are mainly two classes of asymptotic function. First is a class based on the upper bound, and second is a class based on the lower bound. The domain of that functions are natural number. So anything, the value of n are always going to be considered to be the natural number. That means it starts with 0. There are no negative in this case. And there are mainly 5 notations: theta, big O. The first notation is theta. Second is known as capital O, and it's actually said as big O. Then this is omega. Then this is little o, small o you can say, but it's pronounced as little o. And then the fifth one is little omega. So there are 5 different notations which will tell you about the behavior of that inherent function. Let us see one by one. So the first notation is big O. Now let us understand what it is actually. We have 2 functions given. One is this one, let's say this red kind of a line, which is given by f and n. And there is another function which is given by cgn. Now if you observe the graph of these 2 functions, this is my value of function, so t of n, and this is value of n. So on n x-axis I am increasing the value of n. On y-axis I will get the output. So for example, if my fn is n square, Then on x-axis, your n will be 1, so n square will be 1. My n will be 2, so this will become 4. N will become 3, so this will become 9. So the graph will be something like this. It's kind of an exponential graph. So this is what it is. So on x-axis you have value of n, on y-axis you have value of tn. And remember, this all falls into the natural numbers. So there are no negative over here, there are no negative over here. So there is no negative x, there is no negative y. So all the values falls in this region only. So all values are positives only. So now let us try to understand. We have these two functions. One is fn and second is let's say cgn, where c is actually a constant. Now, if you see these functions, for given function fn, there is a point n0. That means this n0 is actually the value of n. So before that value, your fn can be greater than cgn or your fn can be less than cgn. It can be anything between these 2 points. So between 0 to n0, you can have any value of fn and cgn. But once your n becomes n0, then your cgn is always going to be greater than value of fn. So at no point of time, this will become something like this. So your fn goes here and cgn comes down. It's not going to happen. When you have this scenario, or when you find this kind of a point and this value of constant c, then you can say that your fn actually is big O of gn. Now what it means actually? So the formal definition gives like this. You have been given a function gn. So this is your given function, input function. Now you can say that big O of gn is fn if there exists a positive constant c. So this is my c value, and n0. This is n0 value such that any value of fn, that means this value, is always going to be less than or equal to the value of cgn. So that's why this is always true. 0 is less than or equal to fn is less than or equal to c into gn. Then you can say that fn is equal to big O of gn. We'll understand this by looking at this example. So let's say you have been given fn is equal to 2n square. Now you have to identify, or you have to formulate this equation. So 0 is less than or equal to fn is less than or equal to cgn. Now by looking at the function itself, you will sometimes get an idea that what can be the value of n0 and what can be the value of c. Remember, both of these are constant. Objective should be we should found some value of c and some value of n0 for which this equation is true. So let's say you have been given a fn is equal to 2n square and you are supposed to find out big O notation for this equation. So fn is equal to 2n square, you can simply say that fn is equal to big O of n square, because you can find this c value is equal to 2, you can put over here, and n0 is 0, because for any value of n greater than or equal to 0, 2n square is always going to be greater than n square. Are you getting? It will be difficult to understand, I know that, but you have to just try to focus more on that. The only thing which you should remember and which you should understand is basically we are comparing two equations, and we are interested in finding out the more generic big O notation for a given function. That is the objective. This is more detailed equation. It's like an square plus bn plus c, and this is very much compact version of it, like big O of n square. So you have one side big O of n square, you have another side big O of n, then you can say that big O of n square is always going to be greater than big O of n. So that the algorithm with this time complexity is always going to be consume more time compared to big O of n. That is the objective. Objective is to compare to algorithm, and for that we are actually converting this kind of a detailed equation, something like this, into the more simple and more compact one, something like this, big O of n square. That is the objective. Let us discuss one more example. Now, fine. Okay, let us first go through this insertion sort. Uh, you can see we are trying to understand this particular case. This was about the mathematical understanding, and now let us try to understand it from the generic terms. So you have an insertion or algorithm. We know that insertion sort means you are trying to take a key element, and that key element will be compared with the starting from the last position, and if the element is or the element at that position is greater than the key element, then you will shift that position to the right. So and then at point when you find the position where your key element can be put, you will stop over there and you put that particular key element, and this is how you sort or you perform insertion sort. Let us show you the demonstration because this is important. So this is very a nice. Stop this. So this is a very nice platform for understanding the sorting algorithm, visualalgo.net. I have already put it on my classroom. So you can just go to this platform, you can just visualize and understand the various algorithm. So let's say we are trying to understand an insertion sort. Oh. Okay. So insertion sort we are discussing. First, we'll start from the second position. My second position will be my key element. So 1 is the key element. That will be compared with 42. Because 42 is greater than key element, you will shift 40 to the right. Okay. And once you reach at a position either at the beginning of the array or you found an element which is less than key element, at that point you will insert the key element. So that's why we have inserted 1 at the first position. Then 37 will be my key element. It will be compared with 42. Because 42 is greater than 37, it will shift right. Again, this will be compared with 1. Now 1 is less than key element, so we'll stop here comparison and your key element will be inserted. So this is how you do the insertion sort. Obviously, this will be discussed in detail by in the another session while discussing sorting. But this is how we do the insertion sort. Okay. Now the important thing which I want you to observe is how many times we are actually doing the steps. That is to be understood. And what is the maximum time we are required to do this. So 23 you are taking now that key element. In the worst case, what you will do is you will have to go till the first position, right? Now 50, again you are not doing 13. In the worst case, what is required? You have to stop over here only, but in the worst case, where it goes till 1, and then you have to insert. So that means at any point of time, okay, let me finish this. Okay, this 41 will be take its position, 43, 45, come next, 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 next. Now to stop. Okay, fine. Stop. Stop. So this 4 has to go till the first point, right? Not the first point, but it has to go till 3 because that is what its value is. Again, this 18 has to go till 13. So the point over here which I want to make is very simple and straightforward. This is how your insertion sort works. So you will start with the second element, your first, that will be your key element. Then you will start comparing the key element with j minus 1. J minus 1 means that you have started with the second, so it will start comparison with the first element. And then you are running this loop, you are just skipping all the elements which are greater than key. So A of I is greater than key, or you have reached at the initial end or the leftmost element of an array. So till you find that your element is greater than key or you have reached at the end of the array, you will keep on moving the element to the right. You will keep on decrementing this index I. And once you have reached at a position where your key can be put, you will simply insert the key element. This is how you do it. So the observation can be made over here is the inner loop takes constant time for a given I and j, right? You will give some value of I and some value of j. This will always going to be constant time. But the outer loop, that means this one, is going to, it's going to be variable because it depends on what is the value of I and j, what is the value of array, what is the value of key. There are lots of parameters which actually affects this loop. I think there is a mistake. This okay, fine. So basically what we want to say is that the at most this outer loop runs how many times? It runs j times, but this inner loop, I think this is changed, this should be changed. But this inner loop will at most run I into j time. So that means in the worst case, this particular statement, if you see this particular statement will be executed I into j, that means n into n, that means n square times. So we can say that n square is the upper bound for insertion sort. In the worst case, your algorithm will not take more steps or it will not require more steps than n square, where n is actually the size of array. And that's why we can say that the n square or big O of n square is actually the upper bound for a given algorithm. And that is what we called a time complexity of that algorithm. But the notation is big O. Big O means we are actually considering the worst case. Here also you can see we are actually considering the worst case. You always put an upper bound on a given function. This is my given function. But what is the worst case? Worst case is always greater than the given function. So big O actually tries to model the function in a scenario of worst case. So we can say that big O gives the worst case time complexity for any given algorithm. Now let us again consider few more examples. Let's say your fn is equal to 16. Now fn is equal to 16 means it's a constant function. So when you have a constant function, that means there are no variable. That means your if you go to this equation, fn is equal to cgn. Now here this is 16, right? That means it's constant. That means there is no n involved in the value of fn. So that means if you try to convert this, it is 16 into 1. 1 means it's a constant function, so it's big O of 1, value of c is 16. And because there is no role of n into this, no matter what value of n you take, it's not going to change. So this is, you can say it's 0. Few more example. Let's say your fn is 3n plus 5. How do you compare, or how do you evaluate, or how do you reach at a big O notation? So let us try to understand it. So 3n plus 5, usually what we do, we actually try to replace the lower order terms with the actual variables. I told you that we always try to ignore the lower order terms, but you can't simply ignore it directly. You have to do some calculation. So what calculation we are doing? So the given function is 3n plus 5. Can you say that 3n plus 5 is always less than or equal to 3n plus n if your n value is greater than or equal to 5? Try to understand this. 3n plus 5, let's say your n is equal to 1. So 3n plus 5 is 3 into 1 plus 5, so that's 8. N is equal to 1. 3 into 1, 3 plus 1, that's 4. Now 8 is not less than or equal to 4. Right? So you have to find some value of n for which this equation is true. So what is that value? Obviously your n has to be greater than or equal to 5. Then only your this two value will be either equal or this value will be less than this. Because here you are actually having plus 5. So that's why you can say this, or you can write this if your n is greater or equal to 5. Now 3n plus n is 4n. Now it sounds like fn is equal to gn, right? So you have now single degree of n. You have some constant 4. But when this is true only for this value. So what is the value of n0 in this equation? The value of n0 in this particular plot over here is 5. So when your n0 is 5 and your c is 4, you can say that fn is equal to big O of n. Fn is equal to 3n plus 5 is equal to big O of n. Let us see this quadratic function. So you have 27n square plus 16n. I want to change this 16n into 16n square. When this is true, it's always going to true for any value of n greater than or equal to 1, because n square is always going to be greater than n for any value of n greater than or equal to 1. So this will be 27n square plus 16n is less than or equal to this. Now this is 27 plus 16, so that is 43 n square. Now that means now I have found the value of c, 43. I have already found the value of n0, that is 1. So for this value of c and n0, I can say that this is equal to big O of n square. One more case, cubic function. Again, you will try to replace the lowest order term first. So what you will do, this 2n will be replaced by 2n square. You can also replace with any higher order term. So what I can do is, if I write n is greater than or equal to 1, then I have to write 2n square. But because I know that 2n is always less than or equal to n square for any value of n greater than or equal to 2. 2n means if your n is 2, then it is 4, n square means 4. If your n is 3, then this is 2 into 3, 6, n square is 3 into 3 square, that is 9, n is 4, this is 8, 4 square is 16. So that means for any value of n greater than or equal to 2, this is true, that 2n cube plus n square plus 2n is less than or equal to 2n cube plus n square plus n square. Again, n square plus n square means 2n square. Again, you want to put or you want to convert this term 2n square into something in the order of n cube. Then you have to identify. Now there are no rules for this actually, and it's self-understood. You have to compute the value of, you have to find that value of n for which this is true, that 2n square is less than or equal to n cube. So that value is again 2, right? So that means 2n cube plus n cube, that will turns out to be 3n cube. Now again it sounds like big O of n cube for value of c as 3 and for value of n 0. Now we have considered two replacements, so you have to find out the largest of these two. So again largest of these two is 2. So that's why n0 is 2. One more example for exponential function. So you have now 2 raised to n plus 6n square plus 3n. So 2 raised to n plus 6n square plus 3n is always going to be less than or equal to. Now again this is 3n. You want to replace it with n square. So you have to find out for which value of n. Yes.
Hello, sir. PDF નથી દેખાતી, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for informing. Last time भी તમે આવું કંઈક કરેલું. એ દેખાતું નહીં હતું ને તમે કંઈ બોલેલા નહીં. So what are the other people doing actually? I was discussing this since last 10 minutes and you are not saying anything. Okay, so let's repeat it. So what we have been discussing is this example. So what I have been saying was that you have been given some function 3n plus 5 and we are interested in finding out the big O notation of the same. So as I told you, the objective is to remove all the lower order term. That can be only done if you replace it with some higher order term. So 3n plus 5 has to be, this 5 has to be replaced with n. But when can you replace this 5 with n? When your n is always greater than or equal to 5. So 3n plus 5 is less than or equal to this if your n value is greater than or equal to 5. Again 3n plus n is 4n. So now it sounds like fn is equal to cgn, where gn is n and c is 4 and value of n0 is 5. So for this value of c and n0, you can say fn is equal to big O of n. For quadratic function, you will do the same thing. You will have to replace this 16n. You have to replace this 16n with n square. Now, this is one way. I will discuss one more thing once I finish these 4 examples. So let us now keep it very simple. So I have to replace this n with n square. I can do it for any value of n greater than or equal to 1. So I will say 27n square plus 16n is always less than or equal to this This is 27 plus 16, so that is 43. Now it sounds like big O of n square for C value is 43 and for n value is equal to 1. Cubic function, again there are 3 terms, but this 2 term has to be replaced by the higher order term. So let us first replace the last term. So it's 2n cube plus n square. I want to replace this 2n with n square. So I can do it for any value of n greater than or equal to 2, I can do that. Because for n is equal to 1, I cannot say 2n is less than n square. Because for n is equal to 1, 2n is 2 and n square is 1 and 2 is not less than 1. So I have to find some value of n for which this is true. 2n is less than n square, and that value is any value greater than or equal to 2. So for any value greater than or equal to 2, I can write this. Again, this n square plus n square is 2n square. Now this 2n square, I want to convert it into the n cube, and for any value of n greater than equal to 1, this is true. Sorry, greater than 1, not equal to 1. So for any value of n, because if you put n is equal to 2, then 2n square is 2 into n square is 4, so 2 into 4, that is 8. And here it is n cube, so that is 2 raised to 3, that is also 8. Now here, if I put n is equal to 3, 3 square, that is 9, into 2, that is 18, and 3 cube is 27. So now for any value of n greater than or equal to 2, 2n square is always going to be less than n cube, less than or equal to n cube. So I can write this. So now 2n cube plus n cube, that is 3n cube. Now again it sounds like CGN. Now Gn is n cube, so that's why I will say big O of n cube for value of C is equal to 3, and for value of n0. Now we have two cases of n0. One is this, second is this. Because we are finding out the highest value of n, you have to take the maximum of these two, and that is 2. For exponential function, again I will replace this 3n with n square. That can be replaced only if n is greater than or equal to 3. Because if you see n is equal to 1, then 1 square is 1, 3n is 3. 3 is not less than 1. So you cannot choose n is equal to 1. N is equal to 2, 3n is 6, 2 square is 4. 6 is not less than 4, so you cannot choose n is equal to 2. N is equal to 3, 3 into 3, 9, 3 square is also 9. So now 9 is less than or equal to 9, so you can have n3. 4, 3 into 4, 12, this is 4 square, 16. Now onwards for any value of n, this is always going to be true. So I can write this. So 6n square plus n square, that turns out to be 7n square. Again, I have to replace this 7n square with something in the order of 2 raised to n. Now again I need to apply some mathematical logic. N square is always less than or equal to 2 raised to n for any value of n greater than or equal to 4. Right? So you take n equal to 1, so 1 square is 1, 2 raised to 1 is 2. 2 square is 4, 2 raised to n is also 4, 3 square is 9, 2 raised to 3 is 8. Now 9 is not less than 8. So that's what I was saying to you, that in this region, the value of Fn and Gn may overlap every multiple times. So at some value of n, your Fn is higher, for some value of n, your Cgn is higher. That may possible. But the same thing which is happening over here. For n value of, for 1, your 1 is less than or equal to 1, it's fine. 1 is less than 2, it's fine. For 2, it's 2 raised square, so that is 4. Again 2 square, so that is 4. 4 is equal to 4. That's fine. But when you take value of n as 3, then it becomes 3 square, so that is 9. And 2 raised to 3, that is 8. Now 9 is not less than 8. So now actually this term has become higher. Then you take 4, this is 16, this is also 16. When you take 5, this is 25, 2 raised to 5 is 32. Now for any value of n, this is always going to be higher order term compared to this. So that's why we can say this 2 raised to n plus 7n square is less than or equal to 2 raised to n plus 7 into 2 raised to n for any value of n greater than or equal to 4. Now this is 2, that means 1 plus 7, so that is 8. So 8 into 2 raised to n, so it sounds like CGN. C value is 8. N0 is maximum of these two, so that is 4. And that's why your Fn, you can say it's big O of 2 raised to n for value of C as 8 and for value of N0 as 4. So I hope you understood the concept. Concept is to find out the upper bound for any given function. You should also understand how to derive it. The only thing which is required is you need to find out this equation. Fn is less than or equal to Cgn. You have to find out some value of C and some value of N0. So for doing that, what you are supposed to do is you have to convert this lower order term into the higher order term. But while replacing that lower order term with the higher order term, you have to check the value of n. It has to be some bound, some lower bound, after which this condition is always going to be true. So that is the only thing which is to be observed. And you keep on doing this till you get the term or the highest order term. So here also you are getting highest order term, here also, and here also. Now once you receive that highest order term, you simply apply this formal definition, and you can easily say that uh, Fn is equal to either big O of n, big O of n square, big O of n cube, big O of 2 raised to n. In general, what you should understand is Fn is always going to be the big O of highest order term in this equation. Remember, forget about the constant, forget about the coefficients, everything you should forget. Simply ignore the previous term, simply ignore the coefficients. Whatever is the highest order term, that will be of big O notation for any given function. So here highest order term is n, here highest order term is n square, here highest order term is n cube, here highest order term is 2 raised to n. That's why you get big O notation over here, big O of n, big O of n square, big O of n cube, big O of 2 raised to n. Obviously there will be some value of constant C and n0 for any of these equations. So I hope you have understood the big O notation. If you understood this carefully, then the understanding other notations are relatively simple, because you can simply apply this logic over there and you can easily get the concept. So this is about the first notation, that is big O notation for computing the asymptotic function for any given equation, and that is actually your time complexity. So the time complexity of any given algorithm is always in the form of big O or big omega or big theta or little o or little omega. So these are the 5 notations which are used to represent the time complexity of any given algorithm. Okay, it's 10:50, so I will stop here. If you have any query, any doubt, we will discuss it. We can discuss it right now. Yes, anyone?